Vory, who just dropped his third full length album project, Lost Souls. I don't know if this is
debut album. Yes,
debut album.
Everything
I guess
else was a tape.
Lost Souls. Last time we heard Vory, at least last time I think we talked about him on the podcast, would have been on Donda. And as someone that has had a few tapes in the past, kind of just came up through Donda. Obviously, I think we were excited to see what he could bring. I also think his showings on some of the Donda songs really stood out. Like I thought, No Child Left Behind,
and No Child Left Behind.
Yep. I think he also might have contributed to one other, but
he was on Donda 2 on that song Lord Lift Me Up, which is really just a solo Vory track on the Donda 2 we heard, a few months ago.
Donda 2, an album I do not ever want to go back to. But yeah, good for Vory getting on that. Did you feel like Lost Souls is like going to be a breakout project for him?
Yeah, I think that's the key question here. And it's funny, I actually was not aware of this when Donda came out, but Vory, you would be forgiven if you thought Vory, new good music signee in the orbit of Kanye, following the footsteps of many other people that worked with him and signed to him. No, Vory's actually signed to Meek Mill. He signed the Dream Chasers. Curveball there. Anyway, I honestly like this a lot more than I thought I would. It's a long record. It's too long. It's got bloat in it. Just get that out of the way. But I do think Vory's performances, his voice as like a guy in the male R&B / melodic hip hop lane, I actually like really enjoy his voice, and I think he stands out more than say someone on this alongside him like Young Blue. I think he's a bit more interesting than some of his contemporaries along these lines. So there was more songs that I really enjoyed than I expected to, because I also wasn't super blown away by his Donda stuff, to be honest. I know some people were. He was definitely a name people were remembering from Donda, but I wasn't necessarily wowed by him. But in terms of like the male R&B stuff that we get these days, I actually thought there was some cool stuff here. So not a perfect album, but I did like more than I thought I would.
It's it's definitely like a first album. I think that, like you said, there's a lot of bloat on here. I definitely found myself just feeling kind of bored at times. I think by the end there's not a ton of variation. Actually, it's like a second or third song near the end. Might be Project Baby that comes right after this interlude that really lulls you to sleep. That's just like such a welcome shot of energy to it, because I feel like a lot of this feels a bit sleepy at times. But I definitely think there's some positive takeaways here for Vory, and I expect this to propel him to get more opportunities and to probably put out some better stuff in the future. So I guess I'll say it wasn't my favorite, and also that listening to Sci High right after, I just was like, oh, this is someone who's been in the game a long time versus someone who's rather new and kind of still finding their voice. A funny juxtaposition, I would say, but I think there's definitely some good takeaways. So tell me what you liked about it, because you said you were a little impressed.
Yeah, so I think it's just a few songs, really. I don't think there's anything to really write home about with this sequence here. And again, it's a long album, but just if you take away a few of these songs, I think track 1, Lost Souls, stands out. Mind Games as well. I think just like the performance that Vory brings, he comes across as like very charismatic. Honestly, I really enjoy that. I think it fits well with pretty traditional trap beat production, but I think it sounds pretty nice. Do Not Disturb in particular, which I believe was the first or second single, the catchiness of the Vory hook, I think really stands out. And I kind of think it showcases why we're seeing him pop up on new features, like he was on the 5EO record. I would not be shocked that a Vory hook, a Vory chorus is more common in the future for that reason, just because it just has a catchiness to it. And then kind of unexpectedly, I didn't think I would be in this position, but Nav kind of spazzed on Do Not Disturb. I'm not a Nav guy at all, but I'm barely 30, but I made a mill 30 times. I was like, oh damn, Nav's showing out over here. How about that?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Do Not Disturb was one of the highlights. I also liked Mind Games, like you said, and yeah, Project Baby near the end really stood out. I think the production of it just is so different than pretty much everything else you get. Those horns come in and it really just perks up. And I think that he's doing a little bit more rapping than like the melodic
Yes.
singingness on it, and that really stands out too. The energy is just needed in this. So yeah, I think you said it well. He has really good performances on this. I just think this probably could have been a 25-minute album rather than 48.